Hello and welcome to this episode of HBCU. I'm your host, D. Brown, CEO. Joining me today is John Smith Jr., the Chief Higher Education Officer for the P3 Group. John graduated from Alcorn State University. John, welcome to HBCU.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man, happy to have you on the show. So, John, you graduated from Alcorn State University. So take me back in time. How did you select Alcorn State as your HBCU?
Well, it all started back around 1983, 84-ish. I had a brother that was playing football at Mississippi State. Mississippi State was playing Tulane on a Saturday at Veterans Memorial Stadium in Jackson. And my dad took us all to the game. And he said, well, tomorrow, the school I went to plays Alcorn. So we hung around that next day. And that next day, Mississippi Valley State played Alcorn State in Veterans Memorial Stadium. And to this day, that's the largest attended HBCU game in the nation. It was 64,000 some odd people there.
Yeah.
The day previous to that, the Mississippi State Tulane game may have had about 16, 17,000 people.
Wow.
You know, and the following day, so we go to this game. So there's a guy by the name of Jerry Rice playing wide receiver. You had Willie Satellite Totten playing quarterback. Alcorn had a guy by the name of Perry Qualls at running back, Hall of Fame defensive back, Isaac Holt, Tony Wolfalk, a bunch of guys, you know, a bunch of household HBCU names that, you know, and from that day on, I was really intrigued, you know, by HBCU sports, wanted to be a part of the SWAC. Fast forward, 1994 is my recruitment year. Being a highly recruited athlete, myself, Michael Vaughn, Marcus Taylor, Destry Wright, we are all highly recruited athletes, and I went to a couple visits. So I went to some PWIs, went to some HBCUs. I actually was going to go to Ole Miss.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The only reason I wanted to go to Ole Miss is because Mississippi State, where my brother went to school, they didn't recruit me as highly as I thought they should have. And so I went to an Ole Miss football game, 15, 16,000 people there. The next weekend, Alcorn State played Southern.
Okay.
It's Steve McNair's senior year. He's about to break Ty Detmer's passing record of, I think, about 16,000 and some odd yards. I make it into the stadium. Well, it took us about 2 hours to get on campus.
Right.
And there were about 65,000 people on the campus in a stadium that held about 35,000 people. And both bands were blowing, and the people were everywhere. You could smell barbecue from miles around.
Yeah.
You had just the whole camaraderie. You had all of the SU fans talking trash to the Alcorn fans, and the game came all the way down to the wire. And that was the game that Steve McNair kind of solidified himself in the Heisman race. Yeah. He struck the Heisman pose, you know, and from that moment on, I had chills going down my spine when I would hear the band play. Right. And I knew at that moment where I was going to school at.
Wow. So do you remember the first day you set foot on Alcorn campus?
The very first day I set foot on Alcorn State campus, my parents, they were, you know, pretty strict on me growing up. Yeah. And it was one particular guy, his grandmother worked with my father, and his name was Mike. That's what we call him.
Michael Davis. Yeah, Davis. I know Mike.
Yeah, right. And so that was the first day I set foot on campus. My parents dropped me off. They dropped me off with Mike.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mike tells me, hey, you're in the SWAC now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so we immediately get in his car and go to Jackson. We left campus, and my first day of college, I left Alcorn. We went to Jackson. We hung out in Jackson. You know, and we
the really same thing I did my first day at Alcorn.
and you know, I had the time of my life. I was welcomed to college really well. You know, I think I memorized everything on the side of a Budweiser can because I drank so many of them that day. So that's how I started my college life.
Wow. But now you played football at Alcorn as well. So what was that experience like?
Well, football in the SWAC at that particular time was awesome. My very first college football game was against Grambling State. We were playing against the great Eddie Robinson, and I was, you know, coming from Clarksdale High School, highly recruited athlete. I was used to playing. Yeah. I was used to starting. So I said, I have to figure out a way to get on the field because at Alcorn State, we were a pass-happy team, and I was playing running back. I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on all of the special teams. And so every time the kickoff team went out, I made sure I ran over and I stood by Eddie Robinson and I kind of looked at him and I would, make sure he saw me and I would see him, acknowledge him. And at the end of the game, when I looked at the stat sheet, it had, the number one linebacker on the team had about 9 tackles. Had another guy may have had 7 tackles, and they had my name, John Smith, running back, with 6 tackles.
Right.
Yeah. So the next game, I did the same thing, on special teams, and by the 3rd game of the season, I was a star middle linebacker, playing against Howard on national TV, on BET.
Right.
So it was, it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It was just, it was a great experience. I met guys and I met people that actually helped shape me and mold me into the person I am today. I carry a nickname. Everyone calls me Janky John.
Right.
And I got that nickname my freshman year in college.
How did you earn that nickname?
Well, a guy by the name of Eliante Bell played defensive back. He was from Mount Bio. And he used to always tell me, if you're going to burn the candle, you got to learn how to burn it at both ends.
Yeah.
So that means if we were out partying and we were kicking it, at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you need to be up ready for class.
Right.
So I had a particular set of guys I would do everything I wasn't supposed to do with. And then I had another particular set of guys that I did everything that I was supposed to do those things. And one particular day, everybody was getting in trouble and I had to get in trouble. And they were bringing out grades. And one of the guys said, "You got a 3.75 GPA. He said, "Man, that's janky." He said, "You had us up all night, doing all the stuff we wasn't supposed to do, and you go to class every morning."
Right.
Man, you jank. And,
and it stuck with you.
It stuck with me,
Right. So at Alcorn, what is kind of the big signature events that happen on the academic resort?
Well, at the academic resort, we would have a lot of block parties. One of the main things that people did there was barbecue.
Yeah.
Somebody hit a deer on the side of the highway, somebody go in and clean him up, and we're gonna have a barbecue. But homecoming was one of the big events. Homecoming, anytime we played Southern or anytime we went and played the school in the capital city. And then we had Spring Fest. And that was when they would bring in the Student Government Association would pool the students. They would bring in all of the different artists, or the up and coming artists, or even some of the more famous A-list artists, and there would be that one spring concert for the students. It would be free. You'd be able to invite all your friends down. So that's where you would kind of really get to let your hair down.
Right. So tell me about the Sounds of Dynamite.
Well, the Sounds of Dynamite. That's the greatest band in the land. We would be stretching for football games. And the energy when you're stretching, and you hear the band, and the Sounds of Dynamite come marching down the hill. The first thing you're gonna do when you're stretching on the football field, you're gonna look to the right. You're gonna see the Golden Girls doing their thing.
Right.
Be Dr. Griffin would be instructing the band, and you could hear them, for miles away. They would be singing. That would just fire you up. Again, I get chills, talking about it right now, talking about the band.
Right.
There would be particular songs that if it was a great moment in the game, the band is going to play this.
Right.
If we're up winning and we're really trying to rub it in, they had a song called Funky Stuff that they would play.
Yeah.
It's a rendition of a Kool in the Gang song called Can't Get Enough of That Funky Stuff.
Right.
And the band would play it like you literally. I didn't care what play was going on during the game. If the band started playing funky stuff, I'm looking at the Golden Girls. I'm looking in the stands to see what's going on.
While you was on the field?
While I'm on the field, mid-game. There's a story one time, Coach at halftime, Coach was, instructing the team, trying to get everybody ready for, make the halftime adjustments. And one of the players got up and walked out of the dressing room, and everybody started following him. And everybody wanted to know where he was going. He said, "Hey, let's go look at the band." That's
Right.
That's how exciting the band was.
Wow. So, on most HBCU campuses, homecoming is a big deal. Probably all HBCU campuses. I even know of HBCUs that don't have athletics. They still
have homecomings.
Still have homecomings. What was homecoming like at Alcorn?
Well, homecoming normally started that Sunday before that Saturday. And each day would be a different day.
Right.
Each day would highlight something different. you know. And this was before Chicken Wednesday started at the HBCUs.
Yeah.
You know, on Wednesday on most HBCU campuses, Wednesday 12 o'clock, that's the fashion show. You're gonna put on your best gear. You're gonna put on your best stuff, whether you went to class that day or not. On Wednesday at 12 o'clock, you're gonna show up at the cafeteria, you know, in your best dress, and you're gonna, you know, they may have music on the green, you know, different things going on. Then on probably that Thursday night, you know, one of the fraternities are gonna have a big party. It's gonna be, you know, and most of this stuff, you know, because I played football, we weren't supposed to be at.
Right.
You know, and curfew was at 11 o'clock. Yeah. But on homecoming week, that's when my bed would have the pillows in it.
Did they do room checks?
Yeah, they did room checks, but, you know, we knew how to, you know, make sure we were there for 11.
For the check?
Yeah, for check.
Wow. So from a impact perspective, what teachers or coaches, who kind of impacted your life from Alcorn?
When I go all the way back, when I think about, you know, me attending Alcorn State University, in my hometown there was a little sweet lady named Miss Laura Hearn.
Yes.
You know, and when she found out I was interested in Alcorn, she came by the house and she gave me a gas card. and she told me, John, whenever you feel the need to come home and you want to visit, I want you to make sure that you can come. And I was saying to myself, I don't even have a car.
You got a gas card.
But I have a gas card. So I think Miss Hearn's gas card took me all over the SWAC. Because anytime somebody said they wanted to go somewhere,
I got the gas.
I got the gas.
Right.
You know, but Miss Hearn, she really instilled that whole, it's going to be a family environment. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
And my dad always used to tell me, it's a time and place for everything.
Right.
It's called college.
Yeah.
He said, just get there. He said, you want to chase the girls, that's where you're going to have your centralized pool of girls to chase. He said, but also, you know, you're going to need to get your books. And so Miss Laura Hearn was one of them. I had a few teachers that attended Alcorn, a lady by the name of Miss Pieta Stewart. She was a huge alumni supporter in Clarksdale. And when I got there, I was in the business department. So I had Dr. Leon Crawford. I had Dr. Eller Anderson. They were teachers that stayed on top of you. Right. You know, I had this one particular professor. His name was Dr. Johnston Osaga. He taught me international business. And he would always tell us to smile. Always tell us, you know, no matter how hard this problem is, you know, make sure you laugh. Laughing kills your cancer. And I'm like, is he sick? Yeah. That was just one of his little running jokes. Right. But he always made sure that you grasp the concept. Right. You know, in the HBCU world, you're going to have smaller classes. You know, you're going to be on a first name basis. You know, and every now and then, you know, when they understand you, you know, they wouldn't hesitate to come knock on your door and say, hey, you're supposed to be in my class. Right. You know, why aren't you in class? You know, or when they find out where you're from, they're going to know 17 other people that they taught that was from there, or the people that went to college with them that were from there. So, and once they call and find out, okay, yeah, oh, your father's an instructor, you know, so I know what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to call your daddy on you. And so a lot of times you had a lot of teachers that took the time out to make sure that you didn't only just get the education, but that you understood and grasped the whole concept. You know, Dr. Crawford, he was I first did my little dibbling and dabbling in real estate because he taught me real estate and investment. But he would actually take me to Natchez with him and show me his rental properties and show me the different things that he had going on. And it was very intriguing, and it kept me engaged in his classroom. Right, right.
So talk to me about Greek life at Alcorn State University. You know, obviously you're a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yes. And also you're a member of the Gamma Pi Alumni Association. So just kind of talk about the fraternity and what it means to you and what it was like on the yard.
Well, on the yard, I'm a spring 1997 initiative, the greatest fraternity in the world. That's Kappa Alpha Psi Gamma Pi chapter. It was such a great experience because that's where I cut my teeth and learned business. Yeah. not only from the whole fraternity perspective, the whole brotherhood perspective, because hey, I grew up with, I'm the baby of 7. So I grew up with 3 older brothers.
Yeah.
I grew up with a father in the house. So I had all of those particular things. I had brotherhood.
Yeah.
I've always been a member of a football team.
Right.
So I've always had a huge number of brothers. But in spring of 1997, I understood and learned, what a process was and what it was to have, guys from all different walks of life,
Right.
come together, learn about each other, learn each other's mother's name, learn each other's father's name, actually knowing somebody else's birthday other than your
Right.
siblings, or
Right.
knowing a little bit about, a person, or knowing a person's strengths or their weaknesses, and knowing that, okay, I may have to step in at this particular point to help this person, and that person knows at what particular point to step in and help me. So
Right.
It was a great experience. We threw a lot of parties. And that's kind of how I got into the whole entrepreneurship thing. Because some Thursdays, the Noops would want to throw a party. Some Thursdays they didn't. Well, when they didn't, I would get with a couple of the other Noops and say, hey, let's keep this thing going. And before we knew it, we had, enough money to go to Kappa Luau,
Yeah.
enough money to go to Kappa Beach Party, enough money to hang out at Southern for their Spring Fest. So
Right.
and that was what, Kappa took me all over the SWAT.
Yeah.
Because whenever it was some Kappas coming out at Jackson State, I was going to be there.
Yeah.
Whenever the Kappas were going over at Southern, I was going to be there. Texas Southern, I was there.
Yeah.
UAPB, I was there. Grambling, I
Right,
was there. I had
right.
perfect attendance, at all of the Kappa functions.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, so talk to me about the importance of giving back to your HBCU. Obviously, it's very well documented that HBCUs lack significant resources to compete with some of the PWIs. And I think a big part of closing that gap is really a commitment from alumni and the private sector in injecting resources into HBCU. So talk to me about that a little bit.
So that's one of, I'm glad you asked about that. That's one of the things that HBCU alums have to do. You have to make sure that you understand that you made a lifetime commitment. Just like we made lifetime commitments to our fraternity.
Right.
We made lifetime commitments to our institutions. I'm a member of the Gamma Pi Alumni Association, and to date, we've given over $125,000 back to Alcorn State through the form of our endowment.
Right.
That has spawned other Greek letter organizations that have chapters on the campus into doing those same things. And one of the main catalysts that helps push HBCUs is the ability to not have to go out and beg the state or beg the other businesses that don't look like the people that they have educated. Mm-hmm. So HBCUs have turned out so many great individuals. A lot of those great individuals just need to just reciprocate.
Right.
And not from the fact of just giving your money. Sometimes you can give time. You can give some wisdom that actually pushes a child to want to actually go and learn or be around that whole HBCU culture.
Right. And I couldn't agree with you more. Now, we know over the last couple of years, Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, has had a significant impact on HBCU sports, not just at Jackson State, but across the country. Talk to me a little bit about the impact that Coach Prime has had.
Well, the Prime effect has taken the whole United States by storm. He has helped push HBCUism, as I call it, because it turned into a buzzword. It turned into a popular thing within the last, 4 or 5 years. HBCUs have always filled the gap, for people of color.
Right.
We have always, been here. The last 4 years, 2.5, 3 years, the Deion Sanders era, shine that flashy light on it. Mm-hmm. We've been getting dressed on Wednesdays for the cafeteria.
Right.
We've been going to the football games wearing our best.
Right.
at a HBCU football game, you're not going to see a lot of people with their shirt off, with the school spirit painted on them, because they're going to have on that Gucci scarf.
Right.
You know, they're gonna have on those ballet shoes that they're letting you know that I can afford it because of my HBCU education.
Yeah.
But the prime effect has shined a light on it, and I think it's a positive light. It's the light that HBCUs need. You know, it's just that extra. Sometimes when you have a person that may say some things, everyone doesn't hear them when just a regular person says them.
Right.
You know, but when Deion Sanders opens his mouth,
right,
a lot of people hear it, a lot of people repeat it.
Right.
You know, I cheer for Jackson State any game except Alcorn State.
Right.
You know, and that's in anything. That's in basketball, football, throwing rocks. If we're, you know,
Right.
if we're in a foot race, you know, at the end of the day, what Deion Sanders has done has opened the eyes, you know, for many to actually want to take a look into what's going on at a HBCU.
Right. I want to ask you about the work that you're doing at the P3 Group, being the Chief Higher Education Officer for the company, and how you're using that role to try to impact HBCUs. Well,
what I mainly try to do is go into the HBCU realm and teach them how to do business.
Yeah.
You know, not that they don't understand how to do business, but teach them what a bond market transaction is. Teach them how P3 can come in and do a design, build, finance project at no upfront monies to the institution, where the institution doesn't have to go beg from alumni. You don't have to make this huge plea for assistance from the government or the state. You know, we actually can go in and help transform that university piece by piece, you know, or one big slice at a time, or however they would like to carve it out.
Right.
You know, and again, because the P3 Group has a $1.5 billion bonding capacity.
Right.
So I am going to campuses, talking to presidents, letting them know we have the capacity to change the trajectory of your university.
Right. I think another important thing we do also is helping to manage expectations. You know, a lot of times projects don't get done because, you know, you're trying to bite off more than you can chew.
Exactly.
And being able to be in a position where you are not a salesperson, but a consultant, an educator, explaining how you can take this project and bifurcate it into multiple projects and get you a small win here, and then let that win cascade you to the next win, and then you actually, what you think you're doing that's going to make the project take longer to execute is actually a quicker process, because you spend years trying to put together transactions that would never pass the credit test. And so I think that's another important role that we do at the P3 Group.
Right. Just managing those expectations and letting them know exactly what's feasible and what's not feasible. You know, when you have you may have a university that wants a 150,000 seat stadium or 100,000 seat stadium,
and it's just simply not realistic.
It's simply not realistic.
I want to pause here, John, because we're running out of time, and I want to take a moment to just do this. I wanted to award you with this HBCU Lifetime Achievement Award for your continued commitment to historically black colleges and universities, and the important work you do every day at the P3 Group to further the advancement of these very, very important institutions.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. And to my viewers, thank you for watching this episode of HBCU. And remember, without you, there's no me.